The esoteric approach won't fail. Tune in. It's time for Common Man. Common Man, Common Man. Charge the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in. It's time for Common Man.
Yes! Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
You say?
I was going to say, you doubted us, but now we're here.
And Peyton Manning takes the knee for the third straight time, and that should do it, folks. The final score of Super Bowl 41, the Colts 29, the Bears 17, and look at the pandemonium from the Indianapolis sideline down here in Miami. Colts spilling onto the field. Oh, and there we go, the Gatorade bath for Coach Tony Dungy, and it's Mike Doss supplying the Gatorade bath. Good to hear from Mike Doss tonight as the Colts are your Super Bowl 41 champions.
Right back at you. Right back at you.
Super Bowl, homeboy.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
I've seen enough out of Cousins, Paul. Put him on ice.
Nuts and bolts, we got screwed.
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
All the defensive backs covering are just atrocious today for the Minnesota Vikings.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the fourth in the North. This is the Common Man, Dan Cole.
One of the hidden issues that most people aren't aware of by being in this chair and trying to stay in that chair is it's health related. Dave Sinekin in. He looks healthy enough. Except does he always wear that wedge of cheese on his head even when during the off season? Because he walked out of here with that cheese wedge on his head. And I don't know where he's been, where he's going, where he's at. You know, it's like... And then what if, like, his Packer germs on the microphone all of a sudden invade my head? Like, you know, remember when Meat Sauce had that brain-eating amoeba? Well, he survived because the amoeba starved to death. But what if that Packer stuff gets into my head and I start talking about Jordan Love and Ray Nitschke and Bart Starr and Curly Lambeau and Bart Starr plunged over from the 1 yard line and the Packers were on the frozen tundra and the Packers were champions again. Oh, that's just absolutely, it terrifies me is what it does. Any type of illness really does. You know, I feel like I've got African sleeping sickness, even though I don't think I've ever been bitten by a tsetse fly. I mean, a radio programmer did bite me, and I became a radio gadfly. But I had a cold earlier. Remember? Have you had a cold yet this year?
Sure. Who hasn't?
Well, my wife hasn't. And I don't think Deuce has. So I think there are ways to avoid it. You've not gotten...
Well, not having any young children in the household.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well,
It's a petri dish at those schools.
Yeah, well, and that's why the only way I think I must have gotten it from this microphone, or maybe just because my interactions with people are pretty minimal. I'm at home. I come in here. I talk to. I never get really. Matter of fact, I don't think we're ever with. This is as close as we ever get.
With the pane of glass between us.
With the pane of glass between us. So whatever you got, if you got anything, whether it's the boogie woogie flu or the summertime blues, I ain't going to get it from you, right? I keep my distance from Abbott and Little B if I go to their offices, so I try to stay away as best I can. The one I don't want is the flu. But now I've heard the flu is starting to ebb in most places, that we think maybe, even though the flu can run into February and even March, I think. I suppose it could go year round. I don't know. But I don't have it. And I'm a vaccine guy in the flu. I've taken it every year, Matter of fact, if they'd give me a booster on that, I'd do it. I'm a vaccine guy. So, but we'll see what happens. I think Cindy seemed to be healthy. You ever do that? This is the worst part. It's like when you're traveling. I just got back from a trip, right? You're on the plane. And you're sitting in your chair, and then you hear from right behind you.
Yeah.
And you go, I just hope they had something caught in their throat. You know what? A feather, right? Feather in their throat. Mm-hmm. And you hear it again. And then you can feel the uneasiness in the plane because people are going, someone with a vicious cold or the start of the flu is in the plane with me, and now I've got to breathe in that. Though they do say planes, I don't know if I believe this. They say that the air circulates so much that you're better off in a plane than you would be like.
Doesn't feel like it.
Standing in line at a restaurant or something, down at D. Bryant's, for instance. And it doesn't feel like it to me, though I do crank. The middle seats, that little air valve so the air can pour down on you?
Yeah.
If you're in the aisle seat, good luck. The worst part is it takes like an hour just to get it. Just you reach out, you go, okay, no, it's not. I don't feel it yet. You put it on, then you go, it's got my right ear, but it doesn't have quite. By the time you get done, he's going, we're now making our descent into Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. I was like, I've been in the plane for 3 hours, and I finally figured out how to adjust the airflow.
As you're leaning over the person next to you for
yes, exactly.
13,
especially
14 minutes.
If it's one of your family members, it's okay. As a matter of fact, I'll intentionally do it to Deuce. Where I'll keep doing it over and over again. Then finally he gets it. He'll finally go, what are you doing? Quit leaning over me. And I go, I'm just trying to get my hair. Then the other one is, this is the one that gets me too. Let's say you're unfortunate enough to have the middle seat, right? In an airplane where it's not a family member. Yeah. I can do middle seat but my family, you know what? It's called elder statesman of the family. When we travel, there's 4 of us. Usually we get one entire row to ourselves. And then we try to schedule so we have a aisle seat right across. But because I'm dad and I'm the elder statesman, I always get either the aisle seat with the family or the window seat with the family. And the boys are very good about taking the middle seat, so they don't want, And then, of course, Potato is physically the smallest of all. She'll volunteer for the middle seat, but the boys always go, no, we don't want to do that to you. And then one of them will take the other one. But the worst part is if you're ever traveling and you're in the middle and it's either side of you, somebody you don't know, and the person that's in the window seat wants to pull the shade down. That's half the fun of flying.
Yeah, I want to see what's going on out there. I like
the way, how often, especially if you don't fly a lot, which I don't.
Yeah.
How often do you get to look at the earth from up on top like that? Yeah. It's kind of fun.
It is.
Look at that. Look at that. I take pictures up there because you see the mountains and the different formations. I like looking at the little tiny cars down there too. You can see them, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he realizes someone's staring at him right now from 35,000 feet. Because you can see the little cars moving around. They're like little ants in an ant farm. And then at night, it's really cool too when you're going over the different towns or cities, and you get to see all the lights. The one I don't like, you ever do this before? And tell me if this has happened to you before. You're you go, you see another plane, like it looks like it's about 500 feet from you. Now it's not, it's a little further away, but because of the air, they fly, they know that the flight from Sky Harbor to MSP is going to fly at 35,000 feet. So another plane coming into that same area, they're flying at like 33,000 feet, and they're going to be a little bit to the right or the left. But you see jets go by and other smaller planes going by all the time going, man, I sure hope that guy doesn't doze off at the wheel. I hope he's paying attention. Hope he's not texting and flying, for crying out loud. Because if he does, you could be donezo.
Do you think those pilots ever looking at each other and like, we're going to race each other here?
Well,
right? Like when you're at a stoplight and you're next to another car and like, I'm going to beat this car off.
Yeah, let's play a little Dodge planes here. I hope not. But, so you have all of those things. You know, where are you going to sit? And then you got the health issues to it, especially when I traveled back when COVID was first starting. Because you'll remember, I went to Hawaii. When I was in Hawaii is when the NBA shut down. When the NCAA tournament,
stuff,
all this stuff, and we were thinking we might get quarantined in Hawaii. Well, if you're going to be quarantined somewhere, better to be Hawaii than Schenectady, right? So, because I don't even know if they have Connectedies, and I was going to do a connecting flight joke that wasn't good. Stop it. So when you're on the plane coming back. And Deuce and I and Pete talk about it all the time. We're sitting there and we get about 2 rows behind us. You start hearing a cough. And because we don't know about COVID then, at that point I'm thinking, I told somebody, I texted them from why I said, I'm making my prediction now. I will die of COVID on April 11th, whatever. I mean, nobody knew for sure. And let's face it, a lot of people did die from COVID. So I'm not trying to make light of it in any way, shape, or form. But we were so terrified. So anytime I hear somebody coughing, I'm just like, could you ride in a pet crate, please? And if you think the service on coach is bad, you'll have to howl for an hour before they change your water dish. But here I am. And that's why I hose everything down with Clorox wipes. So I've done that. There's a lot to get to today, Tennessee. Now, no Wheel of Topic because I did not play today and I won't. But it's Peek at the Purple, and Alec Lewis and The Athletic took a. Not necessarily a deep dive, but they sort of did their take on the Viking quarterback situation. Because we haven't talked about that a lot here on the Fan. At least on the Common Man program, I'd like to get into that. But there are other topics as well. We're expecting Brian Oak at 1:15 for Rock Talk, and the legendary Mark Rosen returns at 2 o'clock. So those topics and those people joining us here on the Common Man program. But Tennessee has a keyword for it.
The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword pay at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. The keyword is pay. Enter now at KFAN.com.
Fan.
We all had that one teacher who believed in us. Show your gratitude with Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate a public school teacher to win $5,000 for their classroom. This week, we want to give a shout out to Tyler Halverson, who teaches at Independence Elementary School. Nominate a teacher to thank today at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
Couple 13:14 past. I'm Common. He's Tennessee. Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. These winters don't mess around, and neither do your electrical problems. If you have flickering lights, breakers tripping, or outlets have stopped working, don't wait until it turns into an emergency. Aruga. Affordable Electric keeps Twin Cities homes safe, warm, and powered all winter long. They're licensed, local, and trusted. Call Affordable Electric today. 612-331-VOLT. 612-331-VOLT. Or if you prefer, you can always do it online at affordable-electric.com. Affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. We haven't talked about the quarterback controversy much, Tennessee, but we may as well now. Alec Lewis.
I always love that one.
A contributor here at the Fan, and also he covers the Vikings for The Athletic. He wrote, why did
you just heard his voice on the preposterous statement tournament liner we had going into break as well.
Oh, we did. Can we play that again? Let's hear what Alec Lewis had to say.
Let's see if I can. Yeah, we just put a bunch together today, so
Okay.
we'll here we go.
Usually when a guy changes numbers to a single-digit number, they look faster, they look more agile, they look quicker.
The preposterousness is coming. PST VVV III begins Wednesday, February 11th at 12:15 p.m. on the Common Man program on The Fan.
Has Alec ever been nominated before?
I don't know if he has or not.
I will tell you what, this is a great beginning to his PST career, if it is, because that's
I always
really
love
good.
that one.
Some of them are kind of, that's, because let's face it, there are people, I think, that are being more careful over the years with what they say because they don't want to be a part. Some people want to be a part of the tournament, others do not. And so sometimes there's filler, right? The committee knows, right? The PST committee. They go through and go, well, that's really not that, but I need 68 of them.
You need 68.
Yeah, I need 68, so you're going to get some weird. That one is strong. I like that one right there. That's really good, and we wish Alec Lewis the best. His analysis is, why did the Vikings move on from Sam Darnold inside a decision worth revisiting? And you know what? Everything he writes in there, you and I and most everyone else has talked about. What is the phrase? Ad nauseum, over and over and over again. But to me, again, this is the question. It says he questions says, after we saw from what Darnold did, last year and then this year, says, how many have asked could the Vikings have moved on from this? The most succinct way to sum up the Minnesota side of this chapter in Darnold's story, even though we won 14 games last season and led the Vikings to the playoffs, he struggled in several big games, including the playoffs against, ironically, the Rams. As a result, the team's primary decision makers were never fully committed to the idea that he could be the team's long-term franchise quarterback. And as I'm reminded of this quote, I'd forgotten about this one. Last February, Kevin O'Connell said he's earned the right to be a free agent. So they could have offered him the 3-year deal, what's longer-term deal, or they could have franchised him as well. It says, had the Vikings collectively believed more deeply in Darnold, they could have prevented his departure in free agency. As we just said, negotiate a long-term deal. They could have used the franchise tag. Their resistance to doing anything beyond offering Darnold another 1-year contract was influenced by several factors, none more prominent than J.J. McCarthy, first-round pick. And we've talked about this. Tend to be a matter of fact, you and I, at least I have had, and it's fluid. And I'm not. Certainly, you change your opinions and your ideas on how a team should be built. And within the last year or two, I've come to the conclusion that, ideally, if you hit on the right guy, like a Drake May, the best way to do it is get a quarterback that draft a quarterback. He bursts on the scene immediately and plays like a 10-year veteran from his very first year. So for that first 3 years, before you have to extend them in the 4th year, right? That's when they usually do it, where you're able to spend money freely on free agency, and then you're able to build your guy, and then you've got a window to really build the foundation of your team with the extra money. But the caveat is, or the hook or the crook, is you got to select the right guy. And not every team does. And matter of fact, Sam Darnold is one of those guys that was selected by New York as the 3rd pick overall and wasn't that guy. And I think I think Alec kind of comes to that same conclusion that, the decision makers, they're the ones that have to decide what you want to do. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And they miscalculated. They didn't think Darnold had, though. I think those 2 games, the season closer against Detroit and then the playoff game against the Rams, gave him a bad case of the jitters. And I understand it. Though, again, I've said it over and over again. It's like, well, I think I would bet, did Pat Mahomes ever have any bad, now maybe he's a bad example, but because Darnold's not Pat Mahomes, but have other quarterbacks that have had nice careers struggled in big games before? That
sure.
Was, last year, that's the first time Sam Darnold was ever involved in a game of, you win, you're the number 1 seed, you lose, you're 5, and then that was his first playoff game ever. So, and I guess they came to the conclusion, they thought, and he says in this story, there were differing opinions among the it says differing opinions of the dynamics of those games, the two games we just talked about, the Detroit game and the Rams game, and all of these subjects made it hard to come to a consensus about what to do at quarterback when the offseason began. As we've written, quote, some inside the building pushed to keep Darnold, thinking that with more time in the system, his professionalism and experience would matter more than a couple of free agent signings. Others internally question McCarthy's readiness for such a meaningful on- and off-field role with a team built to win now. And then, of course, we know they thought they had insurance with Dimes. Dimes leaves. Sam leaves. And now they said, well, now we have to go. We have no choice. Well, they did have one other. They did have a lateral if they wanted one. They could have called a flea flicker and signed Rodgers, but they decided not to do that. And I guess you could say for good reason. You know, I said this before, that if you bring in Rodgers, he's the A story every week, right? From the time he signed, every game, it's Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. And can that be considered a distraction, particularly if you don't think Rodgers has much left at that stage in his career? You know, he's an aging football dinosaur at, you know, early 40s. Really, his best days appear to be behind him, and they decided to punt on that. So they kind of are where they are. They made their bed, and as we've talked about, it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward.
There was one interesting part in this story where Alec wrote, none was more prominent than J.J. McCarthy, the first-round quarterback they did drafted in 2024. For years, Vikings ownership wanted to take a crack at a young quarterback, knowing the small cap hit would help build an optimal roster around him. Now, I'm not saying maybe KOC and Kwesi didn't want to play J.J. McCarthy, but ownership did. But just the fact that he mentioned Vikings ownership wanted to take a crack at a young quarterback, you know, a lot of these owners can hide behind the GM and the head coach all the time, when sometimes they have more influence than we ever really know.
Right.
And not saying that's the case here, but I know I had heard with the Minnesota Wild, there was a big free agent they signed a long time ago that the head coach wanted nothing to do with.
Okay.
But the owner wanted him. Well, guess who's in charge? The owner's in charge. They signed him. Now the head coach who wanted nothing to do with this player has to figure out how to work this player into the roster, and it ended up being a failure. So ultimately, we don't know who's leading the way on getting rid of Sam Darnold, because they're never going to tell us.
Right.
But it's possible this was an owner-driven decision.
Well, the Buffalo owner will tell you.
Well, he will.
He will tell you. I don't know if the Vikings owners will. But you're right. Yeah, that's a very good point, because, and you know, you and I have discussed that, and I've said this, 6-7 times, maybe 13, 14 different times, that the final word in every organization is ownership. There are some owners that are more hands-on and some that aren't. There are some that will, while they still, I would think a general manager clears every personnel decision with the owners, or maybe not. Maybe the owners just say, you do what you got to do and let the chips fall where they may, or they at least go, okay, Zygmunt, this is what we've decided to do. This is what our plan would be. We think we'd like to do this. And then Ziggy can either just say, storied franchise, National Football League, I sign off on it. Or maybe he is a guy that goes, he and Sir Marco, you know what? We don't really want to do that. And I guess you're right. We won't know how hands-on those people are. It appears, at least from what we hear publicly, we never hear about any input from the ownership, right? But that doesn't mean that there isn't. It could be extensive. It could be a little bit. It could be none at all. We'll break. We'll come back. Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric for all of your electrical needs. Affordable-electric.com. Affordable-electric.com. 612-331-VOLT. And remember, they're shockingly affordable.
Grab your crew and join us for a Michelob Ultra Wolves watch party January 28th at the Rosemount Legion. Catch the action with KFAN's Max Fuller from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m.
Hooties.
Trivia, prizes, and specials. Get the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Jeremy, what am I holding in my hand right here?
A banana.
And what am I doing with that banana right now?
You're peeling it, but from the correct side.
You are correct from the bottom. And this, I owe this to you. Of all the things you've done for me, and there are a handful, this might be the most important one. instead of grabbing it from the stem and then trying to tear it, and then it squishes all the top, and then you just want to throw it away.
And it leaves more of those strings when you do it from that side, too?
Yes, absolutely. Plus, on the bottom, if you don't pull it out, that little black-like tip will stay in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always like to try to make sure. Just like you don't, let me guess, you don't like shrimp.
Of course not.
Yeah. Shrimp, like when you're eating shrimp cocktail or just garlic shrimp or whatever, right? What you have to do is you have to take the shrimp in your mouth and hold the tail, and you have to pull it just right so that you get all of the shrimp out of the shell. Otherwise, you leave a chunk of it in the bottom. I'm not going to elevate it to like my scrotum to an art form, but you got to be. You have to put just the right amount of pressure on the meaty part of the shrimp so that you don't leave some of it there, because that's a waste of food, and we don't like wasting food. Do I dare say we've got breaking news? What you got?
Minnesota Twins have made a trade.
Wait, hold on.
Oh my gosh. Above average at that.
The Twins announced today that they have acquired right-handed pitcher Jace Kaminska and cash from the Colorado Rockies in exchange for infielder Edouard Julien and right-handed pitcher the Pearson O-H-L. Kaminska, who's 24, missed the 2025 season recovering from Tommy John surgery in his right elbow last March. Prior to that, he made 17 appearances for Low A Fresno in 2024, going 5-5 with a 2.78 ERA. During that season, he was named the California League Pitcher of the Year and was a California League postseason All-Star.
I think Edouard Julien was
he's a Class A pitcher.
I think that Edouard Julien I think he spent plenty of time with the big club, right? I think he was one of those
267 games.
I think he was one of those prospects that I'm not going to say he was considered can't miss, but this guy could be pretty good. We hear that coming out of Twinstown all the time, right? Out of the goose that laid the golden egg.
Was it last year he was deemed the starter to be in the year, and then he just was awful?
Yeah, and he had moments during his career. Otherwise, you don't stay for 260 plus. Well, maybe with the Twins you do. But anyway, why do I get the feeling though Edouard Julien's now going to be a star for Colorado? Right? He'll win the National League batting title, and a Gold Glove. It just seems like that's what happens to our Minnesota Twins, or really any Minnesota sports team. We always end up on the wrong end of these deals.
Well, as Aaron Gleeman tweeted, Julien is out of options, so he couldn't be sent to AAA. So maybe that's part of it.
I got to answer this test. I asked Oak if he's coming in. He said, yeah, is that cool? And I'm going to go, of course, because I hadn't heard from him, nor had you, right?
I retexted him, and he got back to me.
Okay,
so
I should have asked you. But of course you're welcome. I mean, how do I kill 2 segments without
Rock rank.
We had plenty of reaction to all of our airline action. First one says, and I did respond to this person. He goes, if you're that afraid of catching a little cold, you might want to as well wrap yourself in bubble wrap and just stay home. What a miserable way to live. And then I text back, you must not be a regular listener. I don't wrap myself in bubble wrap. I made it perfectly clear that a cold never keeps me from going anywhere. I'm not afraid. I don't want to get the flu, because when you get to be in your late 60s, you become your what is it? Whatever fights germs and stuff, you're
immunocompromised.
Yeah, you're not as strong, but it's a bit. And it was a pretty good opening bit, I thought. It started with talking into a microphone with somebody else with the health-related issues, and then it morphed
making fun of Sinekin.
Yeah, making fun of Sinekin.
Giving Packer germs.
Yeah, and then it morphed into people coughing in an airplane, and everybody does it. I don't care if you're not afraid of getting the cold. You're always like, oh my gosh, there's a sickly person on the plane. And then I thought the best bit, and this was not rehearsed, this was all, I was just winging it. Like when you're flying in a plane, you're winging it. And about the air nozzle where you're moving it like that, and then the shade thing, it was just an all ad-lib bit. I'm not terrified. And then he has to do the old, I'm a tough guy and you're not. That's the intention of that text.
I know.
It's just like, stop it. It's just like, anyway.
There's certain guys who love to tell you how manly they are.
Yeah, right. Well, that's it. Yeah. Put in bubble wrap and don't leave. Here's one that says, early COVID, I was hacking up a lung at Target, lady staring at me, and I said, I'm fine, I just smoke a lot. That'll do it. Another one says, I'm an engineer who designs cabin HVAC systems, and the air in those planes is actually very clean. He didn't say in those planes, he just said in there, but that's what we were talking about. So he says it actually is very clean. Here's one that says, why are you sitting in coach? Well, if you have the means to fly, and I have flown first class before, or at least what you would call business class. And it's always been, I don't think this is possible anymore. Do you remember when we went on the trip to Myrtle Beach, when I smashed the car into the curb and lost the hubcap? When I told you, the sales guy, what do you want to do? Go back to the hotel room and watch Oprah? I still use that line. That was
also on that trip where you and I had lunch together at the airport, and you are so observant, you notice immediately that I finish one set of food before I move on to the next one. I eat all my fries before I move on to my burger or before I move on to my chicken nuggets.
And I was astonished by it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. A lot of we got to know each other very well at that point. You don't like to play in the rain. I do. Of course, I have $400 worth of rain gear. You had none. So that would make a difference. But I
don't even think I had golf shoes at the time. I was just wearing tennis shoes out on the golf course.
But here's what was interesting. Somebody had told me that you can go, you never check in at the desk, right, anymore. I used to, when I first traveled, when you're a little naive and you're going to travel, you go up to that little desk up there, right? Where in the gate. Yeah, I'm here to sit, and they just kind of look at you. Okay, we'll call you when it's time to get on the plane, right? But I used to check in. Now you don't. But I was also told you can go there the day of the flight. You roll up and you go, got anything left in first class? And they'll sell it to you dirt cheap. I was in, now to me, I don't know if $100 to you is dirt cheap. $100 on one of the trips to Myrtle Beach to sit in first class for an extra $100. Now, of course, doesn't hurt that my trip was paid for because it was a company. But even if I didn't, $100 more, not again, everybody's in a different financial thing, but $100 to sit in the big chair. Now, it's not for everybody, and I don't need to sit in first class, but it is nice if you can sit there. But the reason I didn't, here's the other thing, it's harder to travel first class when you have a wife and two kids.
Correct.
Because it's not like, hey, potato, deuce, BBP, have fun back here and coach. I'm sitting, that's not going to work. Right?
That's what they did in the movie Home Alone, though.
Oh,
you
did
ever
they
watch
really?
that movie? Yeah, remember?
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember the
adults were sitting in the front in first class and all the kids were in the back. That's why they didn't know Kevin was missing for so long.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And then there was licensed pilot weighing in. Westbound flights travel at even 1,000 feet, 18, 20, 22K. Eastbound flights travel at odd 1,000 feet, 19, 21, etc.
I did not know that.
Yeah. But I thought they flew 18,000 feet. I thought we were always at 35,000 because every time you come, hey, welcome aboard our flight here on Delta Airlines. We'll be flying at an altitude of 33,000 feet today. Our flight time should be 3 hours and 10 minutes. We should be arriving in Phoenix, where the temperature is 78 degrees with sunny skies. Thanks for choosing Delta.
Every pilot talks like that, by the way. They all have the same tone in their voice.
Yeah. You never get like
a Tommy Olsen, super excited.
Right.
It's going to be really fun to go out to L.A.
It's going to be fun to go out to L.A. And by the way, I'm gonna fly this thing like I ain't going to die in it. Well, you will get the guy, like if this happened when we were going out to Palm Springs, we, was waiting on, no, it was going back, I think. Yeah, it was going back. We were waiting on the tarmac for a while, right? And he basically said, we're going to try to make up some time here. In other words, we're going to, I weigh 175 pounds, and it's also it's a yoke you use, right? Isn't that what that's called? Did you know that's?
I had no idea that's what it's called.
It's called a steering wheel. It's called a yoke. And he goes, he's gonna all of his weights in his right and left hand, right? He said he's gonna drive it like he's gonna fly it like he ain't got a dime in it. It's basically what he's saying. And they're trying to get you on time because they like to have those on time things. But yeah, I didn't know that. That's I didn't know either, Teneby, that that's the way they flew at even and odds. But that seems to make sense. A common retired air traffic controller, just a free information at that altitude, well above 18,000 feet. But when you're coming back from Sky Harbor, the minimums are 5 miles and 1,000 feet. So you could actually be at 34,000 and 35,000 feet on top of each other, or altitude 5 miles below 1,800 feet. Different story. The rules change a little bit on, I don't know if her pro control, but you can get pretty close to using visual separation, but those rules go down to 3 miles and 1,000 feet roughly. I've been retired for a while, but they don't usually change too much. I'm not sure exactly what he was saying. Oh, by the way, he says he misses Wheel of Topic. Trust me, I do too. You know, we might start calling it Yoke of Topic, instead of Wheel of Topic.
You might be like a month and a half away from more Wheel of Topic.
Yes, you are right. Here's another that says, Common, the cabin air in a plane is recirculated at a very high rate and replaced completely by the air conditioning packs about every 5 minutes. The big issue with cabin air is the lack of humidity in it. It will dry your sinuses out badly, making infection easier. At 29,000 feet and above, aircraft are in RVSM, which stands for Reduced Vertical Separation Minimum, where the autopilot must be flying the jet. If it fails, we are required to descend out of the airspace. We can pass 1,000 feet above or below other planes, signed Skyline Chili guy who does fly commercially. So it's reduced vertical separation. The autopilot must be flying the jet. And my guess tend to be that is to reduce human error, right? For the guy that dozes off at the wheel, or he's playing a video game,
Or he's had a little something to drink.
Yeah, well, let's hope they don't do that anymore. But it's so interesting. Now we've got the quarterback controversy ones. Question: has a team ever won a big game with a rookie quarterback, or a quarterback in their first 3 years, for that matter? Just wonder, because I think that is a failed strategy. I think I read somewhere, we could have one now if Drake May wins. He's in his second year, right?
Yep.
So we could have a quarterback win one. I don't think we've ever had a rookie quarterback win, but I think we may have had a second or third year. But I don't know that. For some reason, I think that topic has come up before in the last few weeks.
Mahomes got there in obviously he didn't really play his first year,
right.
But year 2 or year 3 for him. How long was Tom Brady the backup to Drew Bledsoe before he got in?
That I don't know either. I don't know. I don't know that one either. So, anyway, here's one that says, Common, you are first-class talent, so you need to be flying first class. Well, I like that. If the airline agrees and will give it to me for free, everybody wants something for free. This one says, airplanes have great air filters. The danger of getting sick includes being in terminals close to lots of people in the boarding process. Once you're seated and the plane is done boarding, the risk is very low. I wear a mask only while boarding. And I try to stay away from everyone while in the terminal. I am never sick anymore. All right, good. That's nice. That's nice.
Nice advice.
That's nice advice. Someone said, did Russ Wilson win in year 3? ? I don't know.
I felt like he did win when he was young.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was unlimited.
Yeah. And then this one says, I fend off illnesses with injections of quinacillin 3 times weekly. Quinacillin is what is given to wild fans that have AWTAR, right? Aggravated wild anticipatory traumatic abandonment reaction syndrome. Because let's just face it, the franchise has had its moments, but we've never hoisted a cup. We've never had a parade. Do you like parades? I like parades. The Wolves have never hoisted one. The Vikings, the Twins did in 87-91, but the other, of the men's major 4, the other 3 have not hoisted. So I don't know if the quinacillin will work or not. Speaking of that, tend to be.
Yeah.
Maybe you were going to get to it in 5-3-4. Were you going to get
I was. Yeah.
They were down 3, the most dangerous. I'm beginning to think being 3 goals down is the most dangerous lead in hockey. They were down 3 goals and fought back to win against an ordinary or is it a bad Blackhawks team? Did I read that right? Am I reading the right story or did I make this up? We're like 20-0-1 against them in the past 21 games. Is that correct?
It's like 18-0-1.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and through the vast majority of that time, the Blackhawks have been awful.
Right.
This current Blackhawks team is not good, but they're not awful. They're not basement level anymore. Connor Bedard, who was the number 1 overall pick in his draft, he's starting to come along. They're starting to get a little bit more talent. So they're not the rollover they once were.
Okay.
And Wild were very sloppy out of the gate last night. I mean, the first 2 goals were just really, really bad turnovers in your own zone. So now and then the third goal, the wall of St. Paul, who I wouldn't blame on the first 2, but the third one gave it up from a really, really bad angle. And you kind of thought maybe that was a backbreaker one at the time because it gets you down 3 and it's in the second period. And just the manner in which it was scored was a little disheartening. But the Wild finally started to find their game second half of the game and scored with 2 minutes left to force overtime. And they had to kill off a penalty, a full 2-minute penalty in overtime because Boldy went to the penalty box. And it's 4-on-3 in overtime when you have to kill a penalty. And they end up... the wall of St. Paul shut them all down in the shootout.
Could they have a case of wolvitis? In other words, they saw it with Chicago, and it's like, yeah, you know what? We can coast through this thing and got behind and then turned it on later. We don't think that's what happened there? Because I think that happens in the NBA. I've made that opinion of mine perfectly clear. But I don't know if it happens in hockey where a team just kind of goes, well.
Yeah, hockey's just a different sport where like everyone's got to be cohesive together. So like, if one guy on the ice is off a little bit, it can have an impact on the other 4. Whereas in basketball, I feel like you can get away with just as long as one guy's going, you can ride him for a while.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like what you're saying to me is that when hockey is played right, it's like a symphony.
It is like a symphony.
Yeah, it really truly is.
I just think hockey's a weird, over 82 game season, it's always hard to find just that perfect chemistry every single game.
Ben Roethlisberger.
And there's some weird bounces in that period, too.
Ben Roethlisberger was the youngest QB to win a big game at 23. And I don't know what year that was, but he was very young when he won one. I don't know if that was year 2.
I feel like he was in year 1 or year 2 as well, wasn't he?
I don't think he was a rookie. Because I thought I read a rookie has never won an NFL championship, but I could be wrong there. This one says, didn't Danny Marino go to the big game in his rookie season? It was his second year.
He was year 2, yeah.
It was year 2. And then someone else says, Burrow got there in year 2. Did he? I don't recall that. Was it year 2 that Joe?
Yeah, he did get there. I thought in year 2.
So it has.
He was hurt most of year 1.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. There you go. So always keep those things in mind. So another story I'm going to get to later. Another athletic related sport. It raises some interesting issues, but we'll get to that at another time, maybe even later today. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go to break. Tennessee is going to grill me with some questions in 534, and then Oak for Rock Talk 115-2, and then Rosen. You got a tease for us, please?
Yeah, did Belichick get bamboozled